I'm Bambi Francisco for Vader TV, the network for innovators. Well, some say technology has taken the soul out of music, but when you can hear Lynyrd Skynyrd from a concert in 1975 with just a click of a button, technology does have a way of making music come alive. And joining me to talk about Wolfgangs Vault, which is the online destination for live music, which is where I actually listened to that Lynyrd Skynyrd concert, is Bill Sagan. He's the CEO and founder of Wolfgangs Vault. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here, Bambi.
I really enjoyed just going through the site today. So tell me, how did you go about aggregating what some people say is the largest destination of rock memorabilia and rock concerts from the 60s and 80s?
Well, it all started with, in 2002, the middle part of 2002, we acquired the Bill Graham Archive from Clear Channel, who had acquired the Bill Graham Archive and Bill Graham's company from a prior acquisition.
Do you mind if I ask you how much you paid for that?
It was somewhere between $5 and $6 million. We're prevented from saying the precise number, but in that range. In that archive was not only all of the posters and the photography and the backstage passes and the laminates and the books, and obviously also the T-shirts. I would say that Bill Graham was one of the most inveterate collectors of not only posters and handbills and tickets, but also T-shirts. It seems like he had one from every concert that had ever been done, if not more. But also included was the audio and the video that Bill Graham recorded from late 1960s all the way through the year 2003. And these were thousands of performances, about half audio and half audio visual, of the greatest performers that existed in that period of time, in a period of time when they were young and when their voice was young and when they were just starting out. And in many cases, it's remarkable four-color camera, multi-track audio. In other cases, it's two cameras, black and white, especially in the early days.
And you collected that with a vision of putting them online, making them more accessible to a larger audience. What was the purpose of?
You know, we've always been interested in two things. These performers are remarkable, and what they did, especially in the early days of rock and roll, was amazing. And they were getting paid nothing for it, and they had no place to present themselves until Bill Graham came along and gave them a place to present themselves, and eventually they made significant amount of money. Right. I mean, when Janis Joplin played for the first time at the Fillmore out here in San Francisco, she made less than $500.
Does he have that? Do you have that now?
Yeah, we do have that contract. And
That's great.
By the time she played her last performance, unfortunately, before she passed away, I think she was making $25,000 per performance.
Wow.
But we wanted to not only celebrate those great performers, but also to give people who'd never had access to this material, which has fundamentally been in an archive, a vault at Bill Graham Presents corporate location here in San Francisco for 30 years. Much of it, if not all of it, had never seen the light of day. And so we want to make it available to people so that they can actually see it.
Maybe we can get Janis Joplin's very first concert before she was famous. Maybe we can get that up as we continue to talk.
Sure.
So how many concerts do you have on the site?
We have in the archive completely. We have about 5,000 concerts. We have about 1,000 of them up right now. And I should add that after we acquired the Bill Graham Archive, we went then and did about 15 other acquisitions. We bought the famous King Biscuit Archive. We bought the Silver Eagle Archive. We bought the Dawson Sound Archive, the Record Plant, which is a San Francisco and LA and New York institution where great recordings were done. We bought that archive. And we continue to buy archives. So right now, the Bill Graham Archive, in terms of size, it's about 1/3 of all the concerts we have.
Oh, wow.
But we still have a lot of work to do to get anywhere near the 5,000 or 6,000 total concerts that we have, because we only have 1,000 of them up right now. And so we bring up 10 new ones each week. We're going to go to 20 new ones each week in about a couple of months. But if you think about it, these recordings are on old tape.
Sure. Take some time to get them onto the site.
We have to put them into a digital form, then we have to clean them up, we have to mix them, we have to master them, and then we have to do all of the work to get them into a position where they can actually be played.
I think this is Janis Joplin before she was This is
just as she was budding, 1968. Yeah.
Okay. This was before she could command a significant audience.
Yes. I mean, she was amazing. I saw her actually at Northwestern University when I was going to college. in 1969, I believe it was, and as a live performer, she was without peer.
So what does, I mean, notice I got to sit there and listen to Sweet Home Alabama. I got to sit there and listen to Freebird, which I told you was the first song I learned on the piano. I had to listen to it for free.
Right.
So is this an eyeballs play, or are you going to sell? I noticed that one of your users, a user can actually buy a track as well.
Right.
So what's the business around this?
The business model really has three pieces to it. The first piece is that relative to the music itself, about 20% of the 1,000 concerts we have up, we also offer as downloads. Mm-hmm. And we only offer them as full concert downloads. And that's partly because the live music experience, going to see a concert, it's about the concert. It's not about one individual song within the concert.
Yeah.
And so much of the fun of listening to these concerts, it's the music, but right behind it is what these bands are saying to the audience. I mean, it's so great to listen to the first Led Zeppelin concert on here. This was the second place they played in the United States when they came to the United States from England, and the band had to announce, I believe it was Robert Plant, had to announce the names of the band members to the audience, because that was so early in Led Zeppelin's career, no one knew who the dickens they were individually yet. Now, obviously learned very quickly, because they're a remarkable band. But we show all of that, and we just view if you should buy the concert. So we sell the concert at a very reasonable price, $9.98, and we sell about 200 of these concerts, and we continue to add to the number of downloads.
You've sold about 200 of them, or how?
No, there's 200 for sale on the site, and we've sold thousands. We don't generally tell how many we've totally downloaded, but we sold thousands, tens of thousands of downloads of full concerts.
Now, I know you're expanding, and Bill Graham's library is about a third of the ones you have now. But so who's your demographic at this point? Because you just made another acquisition for Daytrotter.
Right.
So I'm getting a little, I mean, first it was those who had an affinity toward this type of music, and now it's broadening. So who are you going after? You know,
the demographic is a very broad demographic, and we thought that if we narrowed our demographic to, let's say, those who were in their 40s and above, who really were part of the rock and roll music as it was being fundamentally founded in the late 60s on through the 70s and 80s. If we restricted it to that, we would just have a narrow segment of the great music that has existed, and we'd miss all the 80s and the 90s and what's going on today. Yeah. And so we said that number one, we wanted to offer it across all segments, from teenagers through college students through 30-year-old, all the way up to those who in their 60s now, like many of the bands are themselves, including the Rolling Stones and the Grateful Dead. So we wanted to be broad, and in order to be broad, you had to have music that spanned all generations, all decades within the late 1900s on into 2000 and beyond. So we've gradually expanded that as we've done acquisitions, but also a recent acquisition of ours, a recent investment of ours was Daytrotter. Daytrotter.com is a website that's founded and run by a guy named Sean Moeller out of Rock Island, Illinois. In fact, I'm going out there next week for a couple more days. And what they do is any band that is anywhere near Rock Island, which happens to be at a real great highway juncture point in the Midwest, any band that is within 250 miles of there seems to come to Daytrotter for what they call a Daytrotter session. The band comes in, they bring it into their studio, the band plays 4 songs, they mix it and master it right there, and they put it up on their website as 4 free streams and 4 free downloads after the band gets done. And they have brought great bands through there. I mean, I just noticed last week that Vampire Weekend, which was at Daytrotter when I was there the last time, was on David Letterman. The National was there. Smooch was there. I mean, Andrew Bird was there recently when I was there. A great band, whom I think... Sort of unknown and under the radar band, still. A female lead singer who plays the drums, Grand Ole Party, was there the last time I was there. I think she and the band is going to be a star. That's great. So and that is a generation that is different than the generation of my generation. But what we're showing people is that if you like Janis Joplin, you will love Grand Ole Party. Right. Because the sound is similar, and she is just as powerful. That's great. As Janis Joplin was when she was young.
So how do you do that? Is that a human person saying that if you like Janis Joplin, you like these, or how do you kind of do that?
Well, we will hopefully
filtering?
provide that integration a little bit better with the new release of our site in April, but it'll give people the ability to say, look, I listen to Janis Joplin, but I also listen to Grand Ole Party, and dadgum, they sound a lot alike, and if you like Janis Joplin, you ought to check out Grand Ole Party.
Right. I like what you're doing because in many ways, you know, with Vader, we actually try to look at a lot of companies that are somewhat under the radar but emerging for sure, and trying to give them a platform. And it seems like that's what you're trying to do with a lot of these companies, or even the older, you know, some of the stars of rock and roll like Janis Joplin, and showing us early footage of her her career.
Absolutely. I mean, and you have to span. I mean, yesterday I spent a little time looking at one of my favorite concerts or listening to it. People forget that at some point in time in his career, Bruce Springsteen was not a headliner, but in 1973 he came out here to the West Coast, played for Bill Graham at the Berkeley Community Theater, and he was the opening band for Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu was the opening band for Blood, Sweat and Tears. And if you listen to this concert, if you have a chance to listen to it and you're a Springsteen fan,
is it on there? Then I would.
Yeah, it is on here. And Berkeley Community Theater. He plays a song that he played early in his career that he didn't play until, again, with his band until really the year 2003, and it's called Thundercrack. It's a 10-plus minute jam. And it is a phenomenal song. That night,
he looks really young in 1973 over there.
We were all young in 1973.
Yeah, we were all young. So what are you going to be when you grow up? This looks like something that goes nicely, neatly, and very complementary to a big media company that wants to distribute some of this stuff. Is that where you see yourself?
You know, we have no desires to sell our stuff. I don't think you ever ought to go into business with a strategy that says, I'm just waiting for someone to buy me. We're in this business because we want to run this business, grow this business, and continue to do what we're doing today, hopefully do it better.
Oh, okay, distribution deals then. I mean, who's going to help drive traffic to your site?
You know, we spend, right now, we're running about, it depends on what day of the week it is, we send out a weekly newsletter to right now over 400,000 email addresses that have joined our newsletter every week with the new music that goes onto the site. But whether it's whatever day of the week it is, we generally don't ever average less than 15,000 unique visitors a day. And on the peak day of the week, we might be up to 50,000 unique visitors a day, generally averaging between 20 and 25,000 uniques a day. We believe we need to get that to 100,000 uniques a day. So we spend an enormous amount of time on doing things like this so that people hear about us and can come to our site and know we exist. We spend a lot of time on the internet with natural search and paid search and trying to optimize people getting the knowledge of us. But it's a tough thing to do. I mean, when you're small and you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars put into an ad or a PR budget, getting people to find out about you, that's our challenge. That's
a challenge. What's your financial situation now? Have you raised funds? I mean, you're making acquisitions and investments. Are you okay? And are you looking to raise money? No, we're not.
I bought the company, and all the money we've used is money that I've had. And we're close to being cash flow break even. Every dollar we generate, we put back into the company. And as I was saying before this interview, getting good people is the most important thing in any small business, in my view. And we have some just really, really talented young people. I mean, I am unfortunately the oldest person in the company.
Yeah. Me too. Okay, well, thanks, Bill. Wish you the best of luck with Wolfgangs Vault. I've been speaking with Bill Sagan. He's the CEO and founder of Wolfgangs Vault. I'm Bambi Francisco.